So years ago, I was working at the Berryville campus. I was a case manager at that time, and we had a referral come in for us, a young man about 15, 16 years old, and the file, read that he was oppositional, very defiant, uncooperative, that his language was very offensive to people, which then would lead to like kids hitting him or, adults not necessarily wanting to be so patient with him because they were annoyed with him. And so this young man came to our Berryville campus, and he came one afternoon and he immediately went and got into bed. Came, right in, got in his bed, literally covered up his head and wouldn't talk to anyone. If you went in his room, he might say a cuss word at you or tell you to get out in a not so nice way. And so what happened is within 24 hours, the staff working with him were like, something's wrong. Like something's wrong with him. And so we went upstairs to the office and we got the psychiatrist. And we asked the psychiatrist, is there any way, would you just take like 5 minutes and come down and meet this young man? He came down, and within no time, the psychiatrist said, we need to get him to the hospital. So they took him to the hospital. I got a call, because I was his case manager, I got a call that they were transporting him to UVA. Come to find out he had leukemia. And so this is a young man who came to us. He had autism, but that everyone was seeing his behavior as uncooperative and defiant, when honestly he was wore out. Like the leukemia had been sort of taking over his body. So number one, we got him the medical care that he needed. So we got in the position where the hospital was ready to send him back to Grafton. He had a central line in place, and there were a lot of medical stuff that normally Grafton would not manage. And so I met with the team, and I said, we have to make a decision. And I'll be honest, a lot of people in leadership type positions had already said, like, we can't serve him. We can't bring him back here. And I met with the team of direct care staff, clinicians. Overwhelming, we want him back. We need to take care of him. And so he came back, and he was with us for several months, and there was ups and downs medically, and he was very fragile. All he wanted was to be able, and I should tell you that intellectually he was a genius. He was a genius. All he wanted was to be able to go to high school and take classes with every other kid in high school, and he wanted to go to the prom. And so he was incredibly sick. We had an amazing partnership with UVA. They came and they would train us how to take care of his medical needs. And he started getting better. And so we made it happen. We enrolled him at the local high school. He was able to take some classes. Don't get me wrong, there were some ups and downs with that. But he was able to do it, and he was able to go to the prom. And then he got really much sicker. And so he ended up back at UVA. And I'll never forget that I was in a meeting. At that time, our CEO was Bob Stig, and he was having like one of his very large management meetings. And a person came in and whispered a message. And Bob stopped the meeting, and he said to myself and my husband, Tony, who works at Grafton, he said that the parents had called and that they wanted us there. And so my husband and I got in the car, and we drove as fast as we can to UVA, and we got to spend about an hour with him and left on a very, positive note. And then we headed back home. And we got a call about an hour on our trip home that he had died. But the way that Bob Stig made us feel was incredible. And so, to me, that's what Grafton is.